If you're looking for your first high-end headphone, then this may be the perfect place to start. That's because not only does it make a great starting point, it also makes a great endgame. Hey folks, Norb here. In the audio community, there's this thing called the Endgame, that one piece of equipment where after you get it, your setup is complete and you're at a point where you won't be looking for upgrades anytime soon. For a lot of people, Meze's 109 Pro may be it, but more importantly, if you're just now getting started in the high-end audio market, this is probably the perfect starting point, and it all boils down to two things: details and scalability. Meze Audio, if you don't know, is a maker of high-end headphones based out of Romania. They released the 109 Pro back in 2022, and these instantly became one of the audio world's absolute darlings. By the way, Meze was kind enough to lend me these for testing, but note that they had no input into the content of this video and all thoughts are my own. Now, if you are a regular viewer of this channel, then A, welcome back, and B, you know I tend to focus on wireless close-back headphones, the kind of stuff that you find at large electronic retailers and that block out noise. These are the opposite of that. These are wired, open-back headphones that trade isolation for spaciousness, and that you'll find at either your local high-end audio shop or Meze site, which I've linked in the description. And while their $799 price tag is a pretty hefty amount for a pair of headphones for most people, after testing these out, I think the price is justified, especially if you're looking for something that's good for both music and games. Here's why. When it comes to beauty, I don't think I'm overstating it when I say that these are stunning. The black walnut wood grain, the ribs here in the center of the ear cup, and the metal touches, they're designed to give this a sort of almost like a high-class nautical steampunk look. Whatever you want to call it, I just call it gorgeous. It feels like I'm holding and wearing art. Of course, art is all about the expression of an idea communicated through a specific medium. It can be what you hear, it can be what you see, or it can be product design, what you use and how, which is one of the things that I really harp on this channel, that the user experience is king. And the experience on these, not even talking about the music yet, just putting them on, is second to none. In fact, I'll say it right now, these are the single most comfortable pair of headphones that I've ever used. Like, I will literally put these on just to wear them all day, no problem. For starters, these weigh 379 grams or 13 ounces, which means that they're light enough for most people to wear these for extended listening or gaming sessions. That weight is distributed and supported beautifully by the headband design, which is just, you see that? I just put these on and boom, perfect fit every time. These are an absolute joy to wear. Then there's the clamping force. It's not too loose and not too tight. It doesn't feel like it's squeezing my head or like it'll fall off. And the cups have this get to them, so they'll contour to weird shaped heads like mine. The cups are big enough that even my big ears fit all the way inside. And of course the ear pads are velour, which is better for comfort and ear heat than leather, which is what most headphones use. Now inside the ear cups, you'll see that these are 50mm drivers. The diaphragm is something that Meze developed in-house, and it's a combination of beryllium-coated polymer with cellulose carbon fiber composite. The thing I love about beryllium, specifically in drivers, is that it has these wonderful sonic properties, and it makes the sound just snappy and clear while at the same time keeping the organic warmth of a dynamic driver. But let's pull out a bit more. I mean, even looking at the case, notice the zipper. It doesn't even show the teeth. Someone had to decide that, and someone had to design that to give this a nice, clean look. If I have any complaints about the case, is that I'd rather have a strap or a pocket inside where I could store the cables and not this pouch that I'm always trying to figure out how to fit inside. These come with two cables. Both are standard 3.5mm plug cables, with one being 1.5 meters or about 4.5 feet, and the other being about 3 meters or 10 feet. That's great, but both cables are this bouncy, rubbery build that feels kind of hard to control at times, especially when I'm storing them. But my biggest complaint is that the connectors on these are just way too thin, which isn't a bad thing in itself, but it severely limits your options when it comes to third-party cables. Meze does sell upgrades, so you can replace the stock cables, and you should eventually to get the most out of these. But if you have a specific cable that you love, then you might be out of luck. Even with this, you know what really amazes me about this? Meze designed the 109 Pros so that they can be taken entirely apart. Meze did a fantastic job paying attention to every detail with these and creating this magnificent, tactile, beautiful user experience that is intended for a lifetime of use. Which brings me to my next point. In the audio community, there tend to be two kinds of people. People who use audio equipment to listen to their music and people who use their music to listen to audio equipment. The 109 Pro is a headphone that is very much intended to please both. It has succeeded. It gives not only a fun sound, but also a very technically competent performance. They sounded good with just about everything I connected to them. Phone, work laptop, my personal MacBook, my PlayStation controller, dedicated DAC amps, it didn't matter. These are incredibly easy to drive, so if you're new to the audio hobby or if you've been into audio for a while, but this is the first time you're looking to spend good money on a pair of headphones, then you want something that you can build off of. To that end, the 109 Pros are what I would recommend, and here is why. When I first got these, the first thing I did was take them out of their box and plug them into my work computer, a run-of-the-mill Lenovo ThinkPad, and then I spent the next few days listening there mostly to either classical on Qobuz or lo-fi on Spotify or YouTube. I also then connected it to my phone using the standard $9 Apple dongle. Both sounded fine, but then I started moving the equipment up. I started using an iFi Go Link, which is a USB dongle DAC amp. Then I connected it to my MacBook M1, which has a high impedance audio port. Then I connected it to my Q-X 5K, which is just a little portable DAC amp, and you can see where I'm going with this. Even though the 109 Pros are very easy to drive, they scale very well with whatever you're using. The higher you go, the better these will sound. Objectively speaking, these don't have a frequency response that adheres strictly to the Harman target. Here's what that all means. First, if you have music that has a lot of low-level rumble, then these will handle that just fine, but you're never going to get a ton of physicality. And while you'll still get some growl, it'll never be head shaking. The overall sound, however, will be pretty warm, and it will make most acoustic instruments and voices sound pretty good. But some higher voices and maybe some upper registers of guitars and violins won't have quite as much energy as other areas. And in fact, if there's one thing that I disliked about the sound signature, it was this right here, since it took away from some of the fullness that I enjoy in this region. Still, there's enough emphasis in the higher register that you'll get a really clear sound, but some people who are more sensitive to that really high treble may find these a little bit harsh, especially when they first start using them. After they've been used for a little while, the sound warms up a bit, and you can also fix this by both upgrading the cables and by using an amp that adds a slightly warmer character to the sound. While I didn't generally find this to be an issue, there were some pieces that I did struggle with using these. All that said, overall, I really enjoyed listening to music with these. For example, Johan Johansson's soundtrack to the movie Theory of Everything was absolutely magnificent. I always loved Johansson's music, and in these, the music is an absolute joy. You can really hear the fullness of the cellos and the bass in that low-level growl without it being overpowering. A great response and tightness that is comfortable and detailed, but not to the point of being overtly revealing. It's just enough to give you all the feeling of the music without it going overboard and becoming a distraction. A piece I really love was a 1995 Deutsche Grammophon recording of the Symphony No. 7 by Beethoven, especially the second movement, the Allegretto. This was chilling on these headphones. The dynamics and the spaciousness were honestly surprising. While listening to this piece, I could not only specifically identify the viola line at the start of the piece, I could identify its position in relation to the rest of the orchestra. The imaging with these stock cables connected to my Mac was that good. So listening to classical was an absolute joy with these. I loved it to heaven and back. It was just absolutely amazing. Pop was generally pretty great with these, everything from Taylor Swift's Midnights to Superorganism and even more indie-leaning stuff like Gorillaz. Hip-hop as a genre was overall somewhat disappointing to me with these. The deep bass just wasn't really there where I wanted it to be, and the harsher treble really came through with a lot of mixes. Rock, especially more symphonically inspired metal, was absolutely fantastic and fun with these, which is a bit of a surprise to me. I actually expected that to be very, very harsh because of that boost in the upper treble, but it wasn't the case, at least in most mixes. Also, more electronically focused genres like dubstep or electro swing and synthwave, I think all did well here. And finally, lo-fi, which is my go-to for long work sessions. That was great on these because the nature of the genre means that it avoids higher treble that might be an issue with these. So as you can see, these are pretty versatile. One of the things that really impressed me about the sound was the staging, especially with things like acoustic jazz and classical. If you notice inside the headphones, the speakers are angled toward the back. That's for two big reasons. First, it's more comfortable for the ear. It just fits better. Second, because it helps with the projection of the sound. That generally translated to a more intimate sound, like voices being close to my ear, while at the same time making it feel like I was in the middle of the sound with the instruments around me, like a conductor surrounded by their orchestra. The imaging wasn't the best with the equipment that I had, but it did not disappoint. That, by the way, is why I say that these have a fun sound while at the same time being technically competent. The only real complaint that I had about the sound was that dip in the 2 kHz region. Now, I would never say that these sound thin, but there could have been a little bit more body to the music by adding some emphasis here. Finally, if you're wondering about whether you should use these with video games, these are fantastic for games. I use these with my PlayStation 5 and was absolutely blown away. Now, the bass doesn't quite kick as hard as I would like for it sometimes, but I love how good it is about spaciousness and directionality, and the emphasis on the high end helps with things like steps behind me. Having a headphone that can do music and games well, just perfection. Now, to be entirely transparent, before Meze contacted me, I had already been tempted to get these for myself. I didn't because my local audio shop did not have them on hand and I didn't want to buy them unheard. That said, having now tried them, yeah, I think I'm gonna buy these. If you plan to do the same, please consider using the link in the description below since it does help the channel, and you could use my code for free shipping for the next couple of weeks or so. Now, I don't remember whether I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but these are Meze's first open back headphones. If you're interested in looking for closed back headphones, then I'll also be doing a review of the Meze Lyric, which you can see linked right here if it's already out by the time that you see this. If not, then be sure to subscribe to know when it drops. Maybe click on like if you found this useful, and check out this video over here in the meantime. Thanks again to Meze for letting me borrow these, and thanks for watching.